As of right now in Commander, there are 3 versions of Sephiroth that you can currently run. The most popular one, of course, is the mono black version, which is currently ranked around 74, while the other 2 are way less popular, running into the ranks of the 900s. Today, I wanted to showcase my Dimir version of Sephiroth. It's a deck that I've been playing since Final Fantasy's come out to actually great success. Now, obviously looking at the 2, this version of Sephiroth is the most straightforward, and that's because he was one of the headlining cards in the starter deck. These are products built for new players who know a lot about Final Fantasy, but really don't know anything about Magic so that they can learn how the mechanics of the game work. That's why this one is pretty straightforward, definitely compared to the other 2, and I'd say from a piloting level, this one is probably the easier one to pretty much get a grasp of. As you've probably guessed, this Dimir version offers a very powerful control playstyle that allows you to keep the board clean of smaller go-wide strategies while also pressuring opponents with commander damage. So the main goal that you're going to be trying to aim for is to make as many clones of your commander Sephiroth as possible by breaking the legendary rule. There's also a pretty strong blink package as well to help our commander avoid removal since he is very expensive, and by blinking him we'll also be able to keep repeating his powerful ETB ability even on our opponent's turns. On top of all this, I even snuck in 3 alternative backup commanders that synergize with this deck so that even if this commander's out of reach or he's been eliminated so many times, you can still have these guys basically take over and still do a lot of work for you. The first character that I want to showcase is Vincent Valentine, and he actually has a very similar strategy to Sephiroth, with him getting bigger as he sees creatures die. This means that he can become a massive threat by just removing a couple of creatures off the board and then transforming him. From Final Fantasy XIV, we have Xenos, and again, very similar to our commander, he has almost the exact same ETB ability, however, this version can affect your creatures as well. You could also consider him an alternate win con for your deck with his very powerful dragon transformation. And finally, a more recent add was Black Cat Cunning Thief, and I think that she is secretly one of the most powerful card advantage engines in this deck, and I think to recently come out. She has an insanely powerful ETB ability that can help not only disrupt any opponent's decks, but can also give you access to very powerful card selection. I want to make a special note about one more special card in the deck, and that's the mono black version of Sephiroth. Now, the Fabled Soldier is in this deck, but I don't consider him an alternate commander for this deck because I never intended for the deck to use a lot of self-sacrifice effects. While it is an option if you are desperate for card draw, most of the time we're only using this version of Sephiroth to further punish our opponents when a creature dies. Every time I've played this deck, it's never been difficult to flip this version of Sephiroth the moment our commander hits the field and takes out multiple creatures all at once. If you need something that's a bit more budget, Blood Artist is perfectly fine as a replacement. This deck is a solid bracket 3 right down the middle. There are easily some areas that this deck could be improved to make it even more powerful in bracket 3 or even let it touch bracket 4, or you could also nerf this deck a little bit if you wanted to go down to bracket 2, but I intentionally held back with this deck to just avoid this deck from being too annoying, since you know it is a sort of Dimir death deck. Now, Ancient Tomb, as I said, is in the deck due to our commander having a high CMC, so we need to ramp if we're going to be able to remove mana dorks and other small creatures before our opponents can take huge advantage of them. The other 2 are a little bit more nasty. Notion Thief is a very mean card. My personal meta has a lot of players who love to spam cards that allow them to draw multiple cards per turn, and due to Wizard's design lately, there's a lot of card advantage engines in the command zone, so this card will slow down opponents and help you draw into cards that you need to either win or survive. I've heard that this is a good card, especially when you play with friends who refuse to pay their taxes, but to be honest, this is just another personal meta call for my group that lets you draw a lot of cards if you have people who don't respect it. However, I will say, just weigh if playing this in a deck is worth the constant complaining you're bound to hear from people the moment you put it onto the table. When it comes to tutors, the commander panel has kind of changed its philosophy on how much tutors impact power level lately, but I still wanted to point it out. This deck doesn't really run that many tutors. You have Urza Saga, and it's just in the deck to help us get a Soul Ring. Again, not necessary if you're playing on a budget. And Waterlog Teachings is actually a tutor that I've come to really love lately. That's also a land on the other side, but it has a great instant speed ability to get any sort of instant card or a card with flash into our hands. I've intentionally built the deck with a couple of good cards with flash in the deck, including, as I previously mentioned, Notion Thief, Fairy Mastermind, Hydroelectric Specimen, Urtai Resurrected, and Venser Shaper Savant. Let's get to the cornerstones, the main meat and potatoes of this deck. We're going to mainly be using clones as a way to copy our commander. Many of these clones in this deck can allow you to copy any creature on the field. Yes, that even includes your opponents. There's the powerful effects of Auton Soldier and Blades of Selves that help create myriad copies of our commander, which means that once myriad goes onto the stack, you can cause a massive one-sided board wipe from -4/-4 to even -6/-6. Now, the second aspect of this is dealing with the legendary rule, which can be a little bit annoying, but in this deck, I've designed multiple ways that you can get around this rule. Cards like Spark Double, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, Irenicus's Vile Duplication, one of my favorite cards of all time, Mirror Box, and Auton Soldier help create non-legendary versions of your commander, which then other clones can then copy without issue. As the commander says, Sephiroth wants to see creatures die, specifically your opponents. So we're going to do that for him by using a couple of disruption cards that can remove threats. I'm talking about cards like Drown in the Loch, Urtai Resurrected, Pongify, Fell the Profane, and Volatile Stormdrake can help take care of a lot of our single target removal. We also have Mass Disruption, which allows us to hit multiple creatures at the same time. Things like Accursed Marauder, Soul Shatter, Flare of Malice, Xenos, Massacre Worm, and Vona's Hunger can cause a lot of our opponent's creatures to meet an early grave. And one of my favorite black cards of all time, Sudden Spoiling can not only be used as a pseudo fog, but it can also be an easy way to remove even the biggest of creatures. And the final cornerstone, since we have access to blue, is its massive Blink package. Now, the Blink mechanic is versatile in multiple ways, from protecting our key creatures from removal to getting even more value out of their powerful ETB triggers. Now, outside of all the cards that I've talked about so far, there are some additional cards that I do just want to make a quick note about to kind of explain why they're in the deck. Anti-Causal Vestige is an incredible card in any Blink deck. It will easily be one of your best targets to blink or even make a copy of. It's a great Eldrazi beater that gives you card draw and ramp, and you can easily break its mana cost by warping it in and then blinking it before it goes into exile by Warp's Delayed Trigger. The Masamune isn't better than most Swords of X and Y, however, in a Sephiroth deck is a powerful enhancer and perfect flavor. So great alternative targets outside of your commander for this equipment are the Mono Black Sephiroth, Vincent Valentine, and Massacre Worm. Forbidden Orchard is a great way to get fodder creatures onto the board that can easily die to our commander's ETB, so if your opponents are not playing a creature-heavy deck or are refusing to play creatures to avoid triggering your commander, don't worry, we can force them to make creatures. And there's actually a bunch of other cards in Commander, if you're looking for some alternative budget options that would fit well in this deck, that do that similar effect of giving your opponents basically fodder that you can then eliminate and get value off of. Starfield Vocalist is another powerful enhancer that doubles all of your powerful ETB abilities. It's simply a Panharmonicon with a really nice warp cost. Shizo Death Storehouse is a great utility land to help our commander sneak through heavy boards blockers. And finally, I want to give a special shout out to Hostage Taker. This is one of my favorite throwback cards from Standard years ago. Its ability not only allows you to remove problematic commanders with ease, but it can also steal artifacts. I've stolen everything from a Bolas Citadel to a Soul Ring with this card, and not to mention it can get rid of the boogeyman artifact of the format, the One Ring. And finally, to wrap this up, I'm just going to give you a little TLDR about the gameplay. If you'd like some more insights into this deck, like when mulliganing with this deck, I have it all in my primer on my Mox field. But to help this deck fit more comfortably in Bracket 3, I've decided to opt out of doing combos and instead focus on combat damage. Since Sephiroth can get massive really quick, commander damage is an easy fire way to win with this deck. And as I mentioned before, you can use the fun alternative win con from Xenos to win when you knock one player out with commander damage. I'll have a link to the deck in the description box below. And yes, I know, the value of this deck is pretty expensive. This is one of my personal decks, not a budget deck. But I did, in the primer at the bottom, add flex spots and alternatives. So if you are looking for some budget options for some of the more expensive cards of this deck, good luck putting the Fear of God in, everybody.